TPC, we have a problem. This is Bruce. Bruce is bad at climbing, and he sucks at altitude. Now the issue is, Bruce is doing the Leadville 100 MTB. So how do we get this from the start, up this, all the way to the top of Columbine, and then all the way back? So we can turn this frown upside down. I think we might need to assemble the greatest minds here at TPC. So at this point, hopefully I've finished Unbound gravel. We're filming this before I leave for Unbound, so I actually don't know if that's true, but hopefully it is. I'll put a link to the video somewhere down here, but it's time to look forward to my next big target of the year, and that is the Leadville 100 MTB. Now this is a race that I've never done before, so I am a complete Leadville virgin. So I decided to bring in some of the great minds here at TPC who have actually finished Leadville to get some tips and tricks to help me out, and maybe they'll help you out as well. Now we've got 3 Leadville finishers here. I'll have them introduce themselves. Let's start with Chris here. Chris?
Yeah, Chris Blick. I'm a business analyst and quality manager here at TPC.
What year did you finish Leadville?
I did Leadville in 2019.
Great. And then
Seth Holmes, category manager here at the Pros Closet, 2019 as well.
Craig Wu, receiving supervisor here at TPC.
And what year did you finish Leadville?
2023, last year.
Last year, all right. Now, you guys are all Leadville finishers. I want to start with, hopefully this isn't a painful question. Are you happy with how you guys did at Leadville when you guys did it?
I'm happy-ish.
Happy? Craig, I think, let me say this, you went sub 9.
Yeah.
And
Big
you're
bump.
happy-ish.
So my public goal was a sub 8.5, but my internal goal was a sub 8. And so I came close to it, but I didn't go sub 8. And so I was almost tempted to do it again this year, but then I came to my senses.
Okay. All right.
Because the only person who cares is me.
All right, well, that's very impressive to me, but obviously, we all think we can do better. What about you guys?
I had the luxury of having very, very low expectations. I had never done mountain bike racing, so I was just like gonna do Leadville, finish it, make sure I got across the line. So my time was not a massive priority. I went just under 10 hours, and I started in the white corral, so I was super happy with that.
Great.
But it did give me a massive itch to do it again some year with a better starting corral and really go for a
Nice.
big buckle.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a
Yeah.
little bit. How about you, Seth?
Not very happy with my,
Okay.
several years ago, I haven't gone back, but I was targeting that sub 9 and finished it right around 9:45.
Okay.
So get into more of what went wrong.
Well, on that sort of note, let's talk about what was probably the hardest part of doing the Leadville 100.
I think like you cannot overstate how hard it is to climb hard at that elevation. Just physiologically, it's just really, really painfully hard. As prepared as I was, I still felt like I just felt weak and slow climbing.
Okay. Yeah.
Those climbs are no joke.
No joke.
Is there like one in particular that like really stuck out, or is it just like everything hurts?
I just
Power
think
line coming back.
Power line
They
coming
all
back.
get, you know, they start to stack up. and
Power
yeah.
line coming back is definitely the hardest as far as steepness and where it comes in the race at 80 miles for sure. But I think in general, to Chris's point, like just the overall altitude, like you're never really below 10,000 feet the entire day.
Right.
And I think it's really hard, even for those of us that live in the Boulder, Denver area at 5,500 feet, like it's still a huge difference to go try to ride at 10,000 feet. And the thing that I think people need to realize is that it's not just that you're gonna like have a suppressed heart rate or suppressed power. Mentally,
Yeah.
you go into dark places way faster at
Yeah.
altitude.
Yeah. Climbing power line on the way back was brutal, but in a way I found it. By the, I started in the white corral, so I actually had some space by then, and I actually was able to climb it pretty strong, having pace myself pretty well. But getting in the big like hiker bike sections on the way out, if you can avoid that, definitely do that. That was mentally brutal because I felt like there goes all the time slipping away. There it goes. I wanted that time, and it's
that's also the reason why you can't start in the
you got to qualify.
If you're going for a time, and I think if you want to go sub 9,
you have to start.
Do not start in the white corral. Do whatever you can to qualify. Because
you're walking at mile 10, right? On that first climb.
I'm trying to remember exactly when I first walked. I don't think it was quite that early.
Okay.
I was able to, not very aggressively, but stay on the bike and weed my way through as best I could. I want to say it was like really the first hiking was at Columbine.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
If my memory, I think it's 5 years ago. I don't remember it exactly that well, but then it was like, okay, I'm hiking a long time, and that sucked.
Yeah. Well, since we're on the subject, we can talk about qualifying. So you said you started in white.
Yeah.
That's where I got into the lottery, so that's where I'm starting right now.
Exactly.
Everyone, if you don't qualify, you are starting white, which is literally 45 minutes after the pro
It's
start.
a lot of bikes.
All right. So my plan this year is to do the Silver Rush 50, and that should hopefully up my corral position a bit. What corrals did you guys start in? Do you guys remember?
I can't recall, but I got the same finishing time that he did at Silver Rush, was right around 4.5 hours.
Okay.
So it was I was in a good corral.
Okay.
I was in green,
Which
is the second amateur corral. So
Yeah.
red, then green.
But ideally, you want to start as far up
Yes.
as you can.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's just to get with like people who are hopefully as strong as you.
Well, I think there's two main reasons. Number one, the beginning of the race is on a lot of road, and you do, I think, it's like a road climb at first.
You're going to spin out.
You really want to like take advantage of being on the road and with a group and just get ahead as fast as possible.
Sure.
And you kind of use the energy of the group. But then I would say to Chris's point, the main thing is that this is an out and back race.
Right.
And the top part of the race, the turnaround point, is the highest point of the race, which is Columbine. And I would say the last, I don't know how long it is, but the last part of it above tree line, you're literally on like a scree slope kind of a thing, like baby heads, where it's all rideable. And in fact, my friend who started in the Red Corral, his group rode the whole thing. No one walked it. My group, we walked it at the very top. Someone was coming down and threw the guy off. I saw he was like 5 bikes ahead of me. He like was about to diverge into this guy. He was like, it stopped. And then we all stopped. And then we only had to walk it for, I'd say, like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
which is
that's nice.
Yeah. When I was going down though, people were walking like, it was like a hike.
Yeah, you're not going to have a choice of line once people start coming back down, which is inevitable if you're not in the top 50.
Exactly. That's the other key thing is like, yes, you want to get around people who are going to be riding about your speed, but also you just want to get out of the volume of bikes, because if you're in a big crowd like that and one person hits a rock and has to stop, now everyone's walking behind him.
Yeah.
Because there's not
and there's no recovery. You can't like just get back on.
You can't start up again. Yeah. There's no space. And if there's already bikes coming back, there's even less space.
I've never done Silver Rush either. Do you have any Silver Rush tips for me?
I've never done the race. I've ridden the course. It's
Okay.
very, very different. I think you both have done the race.
Yeah.
So I don't have a...
It's half the mileage and about 80%, 75% of the climbing of Leadville. So mile for mile, there's more climbing.
I think it's also harder technically because you're pretty much on unimproved Jeep track, which is like baby heads. I also think it has a really stupid start. Did you have to do the start?
Hell yeah.
You run through the gate?
Hell yeah.
So you have to run, you have to scramble up a really steep slope. The entire field does with your bike.
Run up with a bike.
And at the top is got like embedded rocks. What you don't realize though is that there is a start gate, like a
timing mat.
At the top. Everyone has. I'm like, do we all have to go through that thing? And it turns out yes.
To get your starting
time.
time.
To get your start time. So like the whole thing just kind of funnels into that choke point. And so like it doesn't matter where you're like, okay, do I start on the side? Do I start in the middle? If you're in the middle, you can just get pushed back because everyone on the side's going in. So you start, even though you may think, I'm blind up here, you can't really judge how well you're going to make it up that thing.
Interesting. Okay.
So like by the time I went through that start mat, I think I was already like 50 to 80 people back, right? Which makes a difference because then you're into like dirt and then like it's not that easy to pass.
Line up early.
Line up early. Well, I got a dirty little secret, and I'm also a runner.
There you
So
go.
there you go.
Yeah, but I don't think running is going to make it's you're not really
You running your bike shoes?
Would you say it's a run? I don't think it's a run.
No, this
You're
is like
scrambling
this
up
is like
steep.
a pitted. There's holes.
Yeah.
There's people
Okay.
falling
got
like
your bike.
over in front of you. Like it's the slowest, most craziest
It's a scramble.
start.
It's a
yeah,
scramble
it is a
thing.
scramble.
Well,
So people are trying to carry their bikes. Some are pushing.
Yeah.
Some are just going like not fast at all. Other people are like sprinting to try to get to the top. So
you end up just kind of walking. That's
Yeah.
not.
well, that's good to know. I'll make sure I stress out about that
Yeah.
before the race. Let's change the note though. You guys had tough moments, obviously. What was your best moment, you think, at Leadville?
The moment, basically the only moment I remember like very, very positively is climbing power line on the way back. As I mentioned earlier, I started in the White Corral, but by that point things had spread out, and you know, starting in the White Corral for a first timer, I'm not recommending it, but it did have its silver linings, which was it paced me really nicely. I was fresh. I didn't really start working until like 30 or 40 miles.
Interesting. Okay.
And then at 80 miles on power line, I felt pretty darn strong. And, you know, at that point, I felt good, and I was surrounded by, you know, riders who started further back. A lot of them were hiking, and so I was cleaning it. That made me feel really good. And I got a lot of love from the riders saying, "Hey, rider coming through, move over," you know. That
That's
felt
nice.
good. That was my like favorite part of the day, was feeling strong that late into the day.
All right. What about you guys?
I same thing. So I was able to ride Powerline on the way back, the whole thing. And you hear a lot about Powerline as being like miserable on the way, and it is. It's really steep. It's really steep. And I remember when I was climbing it, there were people just walking it all over, and you're literally going the same pace as everyone walking it. And so I was thinking, am I screwing myself? Like, should I actually be walking so I'm saving my legs? But I'm like, but I'm on my bike, so I'm not gonna.
You don't want to stop. Though.
I'm not
You
gonna
don't
stop.
wanna
And I made it over, and I was like, I made it.
So,
and you'll see spectators there.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
between coming back, like there's obviously a lot of spectators at Twin Lakes, and I think that's probably there's an
Yeah.
aid station in between. And then once you get on, there's people jeering and shouting. And
Well, it's
fun.
legit. Like
Yeah.
like you hear about it as being something, an obstacle to consider on the way back, and you see it and you're like, oh wow, that is really hard. It's 20%.
That's the other thing, is you see the climb coming.
Yeah.
And how brutal it looks.
Yeah.
You see it from a ways back.
yeah. So I'll have to try and clean it and come back and let you know.
Yeah.
We're on the
Let
same
us know
level.
that
If
you
you've cleaned it, that means what it means. If you've cleaned it, I think it means that you've got your nutrition right.
totally.
Because what I saw is like the groups that I were in, like on the way back, people just kept falling off, right? Like
Yeah.
any little hill, and all of a sudden it'd be smaller and smaller, or
Yeah.
I'd catch another group, and it's like you could tell, and I could tell they weren't eating, right? So like you just look around you, and you're eating a lot, and people aren't eating, and then they're just starting to fall off.
What about you, Seth?
I'd say the whole first half went really well. I felt good. You know, it was a nice, cool morning. Like that's always helpful. I feel like I ride a lot better in the cool weather. So all the way up Columbine felt great. Then it kind of unraveled from there.
All right. Well,
Was it nutrition, you think?
It was both. I flatted coming down
Oh, you
Columbine.
did? Okay.
So I had to find I think it was like an orange seal tent or something with like a pump and some like bacon strips at the bottom. So I was able to get my tires sorted out. And then I think I stopped eating regularly in that, because I was on par for, I think I got to the top of Columbine around 4.5. Just I had a few minutes to play with to get that sub 9, and then it kind of all started to fall apart.
all right. Well, on this note, like, you guys, so for you, like, nutrition was the big thing. Like, what was something that you feel like you could have done better?
I should have been eating more like a couple days before the race, like not like 1 or 2 meals, like not Friday night or whatever. So kind of prepping more in the days leading up. This was before I had done a lot of longer 8+ hour events, so I was still learning.
I would say, other than starting in a faster corral, I also underestimated the need for support. So one of the things about Leadville that I think is unique, more than any other race I've done across road, gravel, or mountain, is like the support. There's like a huge support focus. Like you ride through Twin Lakes, and it's like you're going through like a Tour de France throng. Like there's tents, And
Hundreds
there's so much independent support. Like everyone lines up support and they go all out. They put tents up and people are hanging out there all day long, and you ride this gauntlet and everyone's really supportive. But the thing is like you do need that support, particularly if you're going for a time, because they do offer neutral support, or like, you know, whatever, like, which is what I did, which is basically you can send a bag to whatever aid station you want, which is going to be Twin Lakes, because like you hit that twice. You hit that before Columbine, you hit that after Columbine. And you can put whatever you want in there, but the thing is it's like, it's volunteer run. They will take your bag there. If you show up and there's a volunteer there and they're not swamped, they may go and try to find your bag, but you're still waiting. And then they'll just give you your bag and then they move on. Then you got to sort through your own bag, and you spend a lot more time versus like people who I knew who had like people they knew could just, they didn't even get off their bikes. They'd be like ask for stuff and then they would just, so my stop time at each time was like 7 minutes.
Oh,
versus like, because versus
a minute.
Because you have to get off your bike. Because then you go through all your stuff, you get what you want, then you got to put it back. And so like it takes up a lot of time versus people who can just stop and get handed stuff and they're back on their way. So that's, if you're going for a time and you think you may be close to like a sub 9 or sub 8 in my case, like that, I mean, I spent 14 minutes there versus my friend who spent like 3 minutes stopped.
Okay.
So.
Interesting. I might have to convince my wife to come.
But that's a big ask, right?
Yeah,
so
it is.
Like, it's out in the middle of nowhere. You're going to spend the entire day there. You have to shuttle out there beforehand. So like,
yeah, I really had a good day. Again, given that my expectations were pretty low, I'm thinking back now. Like, I wore a Camelback. I definitely would not do that next time.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I had just gotten so used to it training with it. You know, for the big rides, like I just made sure I had enough fluid with me because I didn't want to be like coming back to refill bottles. But I had friends with me there that were totally happy to hand me bottles and stuff, and I really didn't even take advantage of that because I had most of my sugar and salt on my back the whole time. And you know, I felt fine with that, but I'm sure that cost me some efficiency.
The insider tip that I got, because I was debating that as well, is like, don't wear a Camelback until you come back down off of Columbine. Then pick one up and go for the rest of the time. Because by then it's getting hot.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't want to wear that Camelback all the way up
because
Columbine.
I did not need it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
like
cold.
I thought
It's like 40 degrees
chilly,
when you start the ride.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good tip. Like way back, maybe make sure you have it. But yeah, I was, all in all, I was probably behind, quote unquote, behind on fluid to start the day because it just wasn't that hot. And it was probably just like a comfort zone that I had it with me, but it probably cost me some time climbing.
Oh,
so
for sure.
So you started with only bottles?
Yeah, I sent my Hydro Pack, or what, a Sweet Pack ahead in that neutral for the Twin Lakes area. So just for those to clarify, there are a bunch of different places you can send bags, and there's a bunch of different rest areas. The main one is Twin Lakes, which is basically at the base of Columbine. So you'll pass it on the way to Columbine, and you pass it on the way back off of Columbine.
Right before, right after.
Yeah, and so like that's really the place that makes the most sense. So like I had bottles until the top of Columbine and back down to Twin Lakes. Then at Twin Lakes, my plan was to get my Usui pack and put it on for the rest of the race, but I lucked out in the sense that my day never got above 60 degrees. So like it was like threatening rain the entire time, which was another concern because I'm like, if it starts raining at 10,000 feet, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Like all I had was like a windbreaker in my at the support thing, and I'm like, I don't know if I'll finish if it starts raining because like I get freezing cold above tree line. We're not at 10,000 feet. But that the on the plus side though is that I ended up only needing I never picked up my Usui. I just kept going with bottles, and just I think I drank 6 bottles the entire thing.
Damn.
So,
Wow.
But they were superfood. It was carb. It was scratch
Sure.
superfood. So.
Yeah.
Did you run on bottles or did you use a pack?
Yeah, I was trying to recall. The bike that I was riding, I only had 1 bottle, and I think I might have done the whole race on like 1 liter bottle, and then
Just like a down tube cage.
And
I would refill it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got a new one because I had my girlfriend at Twin Lakes, so you know at mile 25, whatever that rest stop is, I topped it off and put more mix in. She just handed me a new bottle at Columbine, climbed with that, and then she gave me another full one at the bottom.
See, that's the move.
Yeah. So I'm almost positive I didn't run a pack, and I only had spot for 1 bottle. And then I was using like Science and Sport gels.
So we mentioned this briefly, the temperature. This is something I'm curious about. Did you guys like?
If I recall, in 2019, it was dang near perfect. It was chilly in the morning, but it was like it might have touched 70.
Did you guys like
Warm
start?
but not hot.
Not hot.
Yeah.
Did you guys start with warmers, jackets?
That's
like,
all I did for gear was I started with arm warmers. I don't even think I had gloves, if I recall correctly. And I ditched those maybe at the first stop.
I think I had a wind jacket or something that I peeled off probably after like once I got to the bottom of the first climb.
Okay.
But
And just like stashed? You didn't like?
yeah, just stuff in your pocket.
Yeah.
But I think if I recall, I don't know year to year, but I think our year was pretty mild and like it can rain a lot more than I think we got sprinkled on once briefly.
Yeah.
If that, but it was pretty like warm and pleasant compared to most years. I think weather's more of an issue for people other years
Okay.
than I experienced.
Was it sunny? Because like mine,
It got sunny.
yeah. So mine never got sunny.
Yeah, we got sunny. I recall that. I mean, it wasn't like hot.
Okay.
It was perfect,
Yeah.
frankly. It was lovely.
It doesn't really get that hot
No.
above 10,000.
It can feel hot though.
Yeah.
The sun definitely.
The sun at 10,000 feet. That's the whole thing. Like if
Yeah,
the sun comes out, you will start getting hot.
Yeah.
So
Okay. But you said your year was like cold, did you?
last year was So 2023 it was overcast the entire time,
Yeah.
and it sprinkled off and on, and it threatened rain. And I think at some points I had heard that it had started raining on people like an hour out, and they were
Okay.
soaked.
But you just were just regular kit the whole way?
I was regular kit. I think I had started with arm warmers.
Okay.
And I think I had a wind jacket, a rain jacket at the aid station waiting, and I think I grabbed it on the way back just because I was like, I think it's gonna rain.
Yeah.
So, but it was like a roadie, like a really, really thin windbreaker,
Okay.
which wouldn't have helped if it actually had started pouring. So,
Well, since we're on this sort of like gear topic, let's talk about something that I'm interested in, which is what bike were you riding?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about the bike.
Yeah. All right. What were you riding, Chris?
Orbea Weath.
Is that how you say it?
I don't know. Nobody knows how to say it.
Oith?
Oif.
I-
I've heard Wheeze. Weath. I've heard it's like the Barcelona Weath.
We'll spell it. So
OIZ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that.
I got that from TPC. Tom Goslin, former TPC employee, was like, "You're doing Leadville, you got to buy this bike." And I didn't know much about mountain bikes, and I trusted him, and it was a great bike.
All right. Cool. And then what about you guys?
I was also on an Orbea ETH. Yeah, same thing. Probably almost the same exact bike.
Maybe the same
100
batch that
100
came
mil,
through.
100 mil, cross
Yeah.
country, full lockout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I borrowed some carbon wheels for race day.
Borrowed some.
Yeah.
That's a
Tom gave
good
me some.
friend there. Right
Good
there.
friend.
Yeah. And then what about you, Craig?
I was on a specialized Epic Evo,
Epic Evo.
which is there's a feature on TPC about that bike.
Yeah, we'll link that.
Okay.
So interestingly, you all rode full suspension mountain bikes. Can you give me your thoughts on if that was the right choice?
I don't know any better, but I do think it was the right choice for me. You could totally do it on a hardtail, I think, like technically speaking.
I mean, it's been one. I mean, Keegan's win
Yeah.
on a
I mean,
hardtail, so.
plenty of people do it on full rigid and hardtails. I just think for the duration of the day, and there's some
Same.
rocky,
yeah.
rough sections that it's just much smoother. I mean, maybe I'm stating the obvious, but
I mean,
the
like,
rear shock made it.
People like to
doable.
say that Leadville's like not technical, but
It's not
like
technical.
No.
but like having some sort of like extra comfort value.
You're ripping down fire roads with exposed rocks at 30 miles an hour. Like I'd say full suspension is the right.
Mainly for descending, just to descend confidently, I think. And fast.
And again, your leaders have a lot more line choice, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're coming down Columbine, and you've only got one line, and you're going to have to stay right. Everyone else is coming up left.
And there's a bike in front of you to
There's a
block
bike
your
in front
vision
of
a
you.
little bit.
I think full suspension is the right bike.
All right.
I mean, I totally agree, but I also think that don't underestimate how much more power pedaling you can do when it's rough, when you have a full suspension bike.
Totally.
Versus
Yeah,
like
totally.
a hardtail, you kind of have to like ease up, right? And you're not going to be on the gas as much. I realized this when I did White Rim, right? Which is basically fire road.
Yeah.
Right,
very
but the thing
ledgy.
is like you can keep the power on
Yeah.
when it's flat and it's bumpy, Versus on a hardtail, you're letting up. You're kind of getting off the saddle to let the rear kind of do its thing. Whereas on a full suspension, you can just keep pedaling. And so like there's just a lot of that at Leadville.
That's a good point.
I mean, the only I guess it's kind of like the balance is like you can make a hardtail lighter, but these days I think you can get a full suspension bike close, and I think the benefit of being able to just keep the power down when you need to. I wouldn't say that there's anything on the Leadville course that warrants a full suspension for ascending. I mean, I ran a rigid post, which I never do.
We'll touch on that in a sec. Yeah.
But like, but I would highly recommend. If I had a choice, I'd do it on a full suspension.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Now that he's brought this up, what about dropper posts? Did you guys run dropper posts?
I did not run a dropper post, and I would next time.
Okay.
It wasn't an issue. I just think like whatever it costs you a pound, if that, is worth it to bomb the descents a little more confidently. And I didn't really know any better back then, but
I think
I
I
don't know
had
anything about it now. So
well, like the bike yoke Divine
Like
made
a little 80
like
mil?
a 60 or 80 mil,
Yeah.
and you can actually cut the bottom off to save like another 12 grams, which I did. That's the dropper I'm pretty sure I ran for that race.
All right, but did you felt okay on a full rigid post?
Totally fine.
Oh, maybe.
And I love droppers. Like I'll drop all the time, but like for Leadville, I don't really. So everyone calls Leadville a mountain bike race. I don't think it's a mountain bike race. I think it is a race that is raced on mountain bikes optimally, but the course itself is not at all what a typical mountain bike race is, right?
Totally.
Like there's like, I think there's a mile of single track.
Yeah.
Across
It's
the
like-
entire 100 miles.
it's like an ultra cycling race or something like that.
Where it's bumpy enough that the gravel bike is outgunned, right? But it's not typically like you're not dealing with any kinds of drops or any kind of even like rock ledges or even water bar ledges.
Yeah.
It's like the reasons you would want a dropper post. Sure, if I was out there to ride it on my own, which I never would do anyway, but like if I was out there to ride it without it being a race, I would have a dropper and I would drop it on power line and I would drop it down column line. But like, I didn't feel like I needed it at all on race day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's certainly not a necessity.
Okay. I got a lot to think about there. Now, there's something else I'm thinking about a lot, and that is my gearing. I'm very bad at climbing. Do I size down my chainring? What do you guys think?
What do you have
What'd
right
you
now?
guys run?
I'm pretty sure I ran a 34 chainring and then Eagle 50 tooth cassette.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I have now is a 52, a 34, 52.
I had a 34-52.
Okay.
If I could do it again, I would have done 32-52. I don't know if it would have made a difference. I was thinking about power line. Like I was grinding.
Yeah, I was grinding.
Grinding.
Slow
I mean,
on
I was
power.
literally just like, am I really? Should I just walk? Is this like even? But then I was like, oh, well, I'm riding it, so I'm just gonna keep riding it. But the thing is like, that's the only play. Columbine does not require anything. Like 34-52 on Columbine's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
A power line on the way back at 80 miles.
Steep.
It's just so steep, and you're literally just like, what am I doing? Like, this
And
is
you don't really. There's not any major sections where missing it on the top end is going to cost you that much.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
going to be going fast enough to.
Yeah, you're coasting
spin
and
out.
you're super tucking. I've super tucked quite a bit.
Yeah.
On because you descend a lot of road.
Right.
Yeah, there's some fast gravel and road sections that you're gonna spin out anyway.
Well, if you think maybe I should size down.
But then again, I mean, I think to myself, is a 32 versus a 34 really gonna make a difference in power line?
You're still going to be
It's
grinding.
like, I don't
very
think it's
slow.
not like I would have been spinning with a 32.
And
right?
then it
So-
begs the question, like, are you just going to be riding even slower?
Yeah.
And forcing that horrible question, like,
Yeah.
should I just be walking
Yeah.
even more?
Because you can't stand, because it's too steep to stand. So you're
Yeah.
literally in the saddle just grinding, and it's just muscular endurance. Like, it's pretty intense. But I don't.
It's a tough call.
If I would, to me, it's like if you have a 32, and it's easy to put on, just put it on. But I wouldn't go lower than a 32.
Well, I can't on
Okay.
my.
It's going to
Setup.
suck no matter what.
Okay.
Be prepared for that.
Maybe I'll just be cheap and just go with that mentality.
Yeah.
All right.
One thing that I did a lot of, which I never do, is I locked out all the time. Did you guys lock out?
I locked out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you are on the road a lot.
Yeah.
You're climbing on the road a lot. You are climbing on pretty decent gravel roads. And I don't have remote lockouts. I just have like a lockout on the fork and a lockout on the rear shock, and I found myself using it all the time.
I had a one thumb lockout for both. I used it constantly.
Yeah, you lock out a lot.
And I don't know if you saw this. I think we had maybe the same suspension as well. But people that would either be with me or that might be passing me on some of the sections, when we got to the road, I would just start passing them. Not like because I started working harder, but I just think the efficiency gains I had on them were
that's
were visible.
I've heard that one of the critical spots is like when you get down to the bottom of the power line outbound, sit up and wait for a group, because you've got like 20 miles of basically no climbs, but just sort of undulating all the way to Twin Lakes. Is it 20 miles probably?
It's something close to that. I was going to bring that up.
You're going to be road, then you're going to be gravel, then you're going to be road, and you know,
and it's windy.
And it's windy. And if you can get with some people, you're going to be better off for it, because you're going to get to the bottom of you're going to get to Twin Lakes, bottom of Columbine, just in better shape.
Totally.
Okay.
And make fast work of
Yeah,
that
you
section.
made a good point. So you do get to the bottom of power line, and you have this valley you got to cross. That's basically road, and then like good gravel road.
Yep.
I saw a group up ahead, and I was like, I'm going to surge and catch that group. And it made all the difference.
Totally.
I caught that group, and we were just gone. And the people that I was with from Powerline, they didn't make that surge. I never saw it. They were like way back. So you want to be in that group because it is windy.
Okay.
So,
that's a good tip. Just don't be alone.
don't be alone on that section after Powerline to Twin Lakes.
Okay. Well, sweet.
I think most people are, just because they, the dynamics aren't there for a lot of people. But like, if there is a group behind you or in front of you, catch that group.
Or wait if you don't see anybody in front of you.
You'll go faster eventually. So.
Oh, it covers all of it, huh? Where'd you guys?
Nutrition.
Nutrition?
Yeah. That's
what'd you guys use?
This was my first thing I got into after more or less like quitting triathlon. So I still had some triathlon influence in terms of nutrition, which was all liquid. I don't think I ate a solid thing after breakfast that day.
All until bottles and gels.
Bottles and gels, yeah. Okay. So I had Tailwind flavorless sugar in my Camelback, and I had gels. I don't remember which brand or whatever, but the little 100-calorie like little shooters. And then after Powerline on the way back, I drank a lot of Coca-Cola.
Really?
I had a bottle of Coke from my support crew. A water bottle that I put on the bike, and that got me through the end. Nice. I love Coca-Cola racing. It's the best.
I'm probably gonna use a Red Bull.
It's magic, dude.
Yeah, I know right now it's like it's all about carbs right now, right?
Yeah.
Like ingesting like 100, 120, 160 even. But I would say, I never ever got to that level at all. But like, my thing was like I set a timer on my Garmin for 30 minutes, and it would beep, and I had it set the whole season, and I ignored it for most of the season. I ignored it at Silver Rush to my detriment because I was like, I just ate.
Yeah.
Because it'd go off again, I'd be like, no, I just ate. I don't feel like eating right now. At Leadville, I forced myself to eat a Cis gel every 30 minutes.
That's good.
And I had Scratch superfood in my bottles, and so that made all the difference. And it was frustrating because like it would come up, that 30 minutes would come again. I'd be like, no, I don't. Do it. And you force yourself to do it, and that's what made it for me, because Silver Rush was a totally different experience. I like just mentally was like, I'm over this race. I don't even want to do Leadville now. I hate everything, and I just want to quit. If I could just stop right now, I would. Why am I doing Leadville? I'm not going to do Leadville. This is dumb. I'm done with all this, right? And like, I never had a moment like that at all during Leadville, even though it was longer. And it all comes down to just like, your nutrition and staying on top of it and just not letting yourself go to that bad place. And so I think I think Leadville, once you've got your training in and then you're climbing, it's an eating race.
Totally.
And it's not easy to force yourself to eat.
Because you have to do it when your instinct is like, no, not.
Yeah. You're like, I'm in this group, or I've got this climb, I'm on a climb, or it's inconvenient for me to eat right now.
And you have to do it in the first half.
But you got to do it. Yeah.
First half,
you can't make it up for it. You can't make up for the
you just got to be steady. I mean, just do not skip a feed.
Totally.
And I used cargo bibs, which I found to be
nice. Yeah.
really good for holding gels. Because like otherwise you don't have to like fish in back pockets, and you don't have to have a top. I didn't have a top to bag. You just keep it in your cargo bibs.
I was using the Science and Sport gels, and I think the Scratch Super Fuel, which that was the last day I've ever eaten Scratch Super Fuel.
We sell it, so we might cut that.
It just doesn't work for me.
Okay.
I made the mistake of never using it before the race, and they gave us. I got like a sample for free, and I just was like, why not?
Oh,
I was like, am I being? And it worked. So.
Okay, lucky, very lucky, because like I've had the opposite reaction before. Like, I won't say what it was, but like at Bailey Hundo, they filled my bottles with whatever carb mix they used, and I
didn't like it.
Yeah,
I didn't like it.
I filled up like a balloon a little bit, you know, like gas and stuff. But it was, so test your fuel, definitely.
Yeah.
Where'd you guys, this is one thing, I'm very cheap. You guys might know this. I did not want to get an Airbnb in Leadville, so I reserved a little campsite right on the edge of town. It's like less than $100. Is this a dumb idea?
It'll be fine.
You'll be
fine. I don't expect to sleep well at 10,000 feet.
That's the only part that I would be worried about from doing that is like do whatever you can to get a good night's sleep. I mean, a lot of people don't sleep well before a race anyways, just because psychologically it's tough. But if you can get a good night's, like my best races are so easily correlated to how well I slept the night before.
Yeah. One thing I do is I try to stack good nights of sleep in the week leading up,
That helps. Yeah.
knowing that I have so much anxiety that I
Sure.
probably won't sleep before the race.
I was super lucky. Second shout out to Tom Gosselin. He did not do the race in 2019, but hoping that he would get into the lottery, booked an Airbnb 2 blocks from the start,
Sweet.
which he then transferred to me, and I got to stay, basically roll out and walk to the start line that morning.
That's the key.
Very fancy.
And that was like, I never would have done that because I didn't, I just entered the lottery on a whim. I don't think I even really knew that much about Leadville, and Tom didn't get in, and he's like, you can have my Airbnb. So that was clutch.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Leadville is a small town. If you haven't booked a place by now you're not getting a place.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, I think you have to book like before you
lottery.
get in.
Yeah.
Like just like Emporia, right? Like if you don't book before, you just have to like book and then hope you get in. Otherwise, if you wait till after you get in, you're not getting a place. So most people I know who stayed close slept in their cars.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a trade-off, right? Because I mean, I think because I stayed in Edwards, which is like an hour and a half, or an hour 15 minutes away from Leadville, and I was up at 3:45.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
To
Big
get
trade-off.
because like I needed to get there at 5 because the race started at 6, I think, right? So
Yeah,
like
that
you need to
sounds
get
right.
there, and you need to get prepped and everything, and
And it's a zoo. I mean, there's like, how many racers are there? Is there 2,000
2,000,
racers?
2,500.
So at least one more person for every racer. So, this is a small town at
10,000
5:30
people.
in the morning. It's cold, and you've got probably close to 8,000 people just all
and where they
In the
have
way.
you
Trying to get
park,
stuff
if you're not
done,
staying at
like-
Leadville, where they have you park is like a mile from the start line, and you basically ride up the finishing mile of the
Yeah.
road.
I also lucked out. My friends' folks they don't anymore. They had a house in Breckenridge that they lent me for the weekend.
Nice.
It was like this swanky condo.
How
It was
far of a drive is
fantastic.
it from Breckenridge?
I don't remember exactly. I want to say it's like 20 or 30 minutes.
Oh, that's it?
I could be wrong about that, but it's not. It wasn't over an hour.
Okay, that's right,
whatever it
because
was.
Breckenridge is south.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all. It was close
Okay.
enough to where like I didn't have to wake up super
Okay.
early just to get there, and I had a great night's
So
sleep.
there are options to stay in towns outside of Leadville.
Well, not really, not that
No?
close. Like Copper, I think Copper. A lot of people stay at Copper.
30 minutes maybe.
Yeah, because it's right on the way.
But those probably fill up too.
Those fill up too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some people stayed in Frisco, but that's like Leadville's tiny, and there's nothing around it. So
Yeah.
you're really staying in like Summit County areas,
Mhm.
or not.
Well, this is a good tip. If you're hoping to do Leadville next year, get your
Now's
lodging
a good
now.
time.
Yeah.
Now's a good time to
Yeah.
book it.
Me, I'm going to be sleeping on the ground, maybe in my car.
Tent?
It'll be cold.
Well, I got to get a tent, too. I don't even have a tent. So, I'm super prepared. So,
Well, I mean, like, yeah. So you booked a campground?
I booked a campsite, yes.
Okay. Can you find anyone that has like one of those like car top tents?
Maybe.
There you go.
Or what do you drive?
I drive a Ford Focus.
You're not sleeping in that.
Not well. You're not.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't even know if the Ford can even make it into the campsite. I have no idea what it looks like. The thing is like so low to the ground.
Make it up the highway.
But I don't know. This is I'll worry about this on my own. You guys, you guys have helped a lot. You guys have anything else you want to like toss in? Some like tips for me before I go off into the wild on my own?
I mean, the only other thought I have about Leadville is it is as awesome as advertised. It's the coolest race I've ever done. There's a sweet vibe around the town, certainly around like the race week.
Yeah.
Like
the energy.
I got so many like high fives and good jobs and you got this type of support from people racing, from everybody. It's a fun, cool race. So try to enjoy that part of it too.
Awesome.
Yeah, by far is of all the racing I've done, it is the most energizing big deal race you'll ever do. I mean, the majority of races you do, no one cares.
Right.
And there's no one there, and it's just like you and fellow racers in a parking lot. This is like everyone is there to support you. The energy is really great.
Really good.
You feel like you're actually part of something, right? You really are part of something with Leadville. It's the only race I've known where like people were like glad to come out and watch it and support it. So,
totally.
Who aren't even racing it. So
awesome. Well,
I would say do more climbing.
Go spend a weekend there. Go
But
do
the other thing I want you to
power
understand
line.
about
Just like go ride power line.
But the thing that you need to understand about Leadville though is you think about climbing, you think about like when you're racing and you're climbing, you're not threshold climbing Leadville, right? Like
you can't.
I mean, the altitude and the distance and the length and the duration is like you're like zone 2 climbing. It's just that you have to consistently stay at zone 2 for the entire 8 to 9 to 10, 11 hours, whatever it is. But like, it's not like you're like, all right, punchy, threshold, stay with the group, and then I'm backing off. It's just, you have to do this steady
It's a slog.
thing. Yeah, and at that altitude, your power, like I normally, I was riding roughly, for me, like between 180 and 200 watts the entire race.
Okay.
Which for me, is like, if I was riding that here, that's like a recovery ride, right? Like that's like, but that's what I was doing at Leadville, and I did a decent time. So like, you need to calibrate your effort, and if you're used to watching your power numbers and your heart rate numbers, and you're used to doing all that stuff, throw that out the window at Leadville. Just stay consistent.
Yeah.
Make sure you feel good, and make sure you're staying ahead of your nutrition. But that is predicated on the fact that you've done your training beforehand, right? Like you can't just go and expect, if I only have to do 180 watts for Leadville, then I don't even really need to train. Because like the reason I did 180 watts at Leadville is because I did like a lot of 300 watt intervals for 10 minutes before, before Leadville.
Yeah. I don't have any particular time goals. I would love to go sub 9, but I know that'll be very hard for me. But there will be 2 other TPC employees at Leadville, Chase and Abby, racing with me, so maybe they can carry the torch for TPC. They're a lot skinnier than me, so they've got some good odds, I think. But if you see us at Leadville, come say hi, definitely, and hopefully we all make it to the finish with some of these good tips. All right, don't forget to like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.